Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you from start to finish how to make this earring. We're titling it the Adrift in Time earring, and you can see it has these wonderful gears as a focal, and then it has a police box, so a really fun design. It would be perfect to wear to Comic-Con if you do that. I do it every year with my husband who exhibits there, but just a really fun earring, and I do want to show you how to make it. This is going to be a long video. In it, you will learn how to remove the shank from a button, because that's what this focal is, how to pop out the designs using a leafing pen, how to bead embroider. You're going to know how to do a back stitch in bead embroidery and a basic beaded edge, and also how to make these little loops. I'll show you how to make a wrapped wire loop as well on top of the police box bead and attach the earring, as well as attach the backing. So a lot of different skills you're going to learn in this video. If you know some of them, please feel free to fast forward through the parts you already know, because this is going to be a long video, but I think it'll be a lot of fun too. In terms of the supplies you're going to need a button, and like I said, I'll show you how to take that shank off. You're going to need 2 colors of beads. I'm using a blue, which is this wonderful Aqua, and then a white as well. These are both Toho, size 11-0. Going to need that police box bead. It's a wonderful focal. A head pin, which we'll make a wrapped wire loop out of, an earring hook, and some Nymo thread. This is a wonderful deep blue color. Then in terms of supplies, you're going to need a pair of scissors, a heavy-duty wire cutter, a beading needle, a pair of chain nose pliers. You're going to need some ultra suede backing for the earring. You can see right here. Some beading foundation, and I've chosen black, and these are just scraps I had around the design space. Get a lot of uses out of one piece of it. A silver leafing pen, these are by Krylon, some E6000 glue, and some Crafter's Pick fabric glue. So I know this is a lot of different supplies, and I'll show you how to use each one of them through the course of this video. So we are going to start by going ahead and scooting some of these out of our way so that we can begin. And what I'm going to need to start with is this beading foundation and my heavy-duty wire cutters. So to take the shank off, what we are going to do is we're just going to snip it off. Now, it's always wise to wear protective eyeglasses if you're doing this, because this metal might go flying, and point it away from yourself and away from anyone else, of course. So we're just going to go ahead, snip it, and snip it. And I'm going to try to hold it so it doesn't shoot out. There we go. And so it's not totally smooth, but it's smooth enough that we can mount it onto our beading foundation. Beading foundation comes in black and white primarily. I chose black to use. You can sometimes find it in other colors too, but black and white really is very handy. So we're going to use E6000 glue to glue it to the foundation, and I just want to put some glue in the center. I don't want the glue to spread out to the edges and spill over, because that will interfere with where my needle is going to go. I'm just going to open up the glue, put some on the back, and this is basically to just hold it onto that foundation. So I don't need to use too much. Put that lid back on, flip it over, and for what I'm going to be doing here, I don't need a lot of extra room. So I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors, and even though this is not dry, I can trim it really quick. So I'm just going to loosely cut around it. And then I always like to snip off the corners. It helps so that the thread doesn't catch on them as I'm doing my embroidery. So I'm going to set this down to dry, and I'm going to come back in about 15-20 minutes once it's dry and start to do my stitching. We're ready to do our first row of bead embroidery, and you can see what we've got going so far. So we've got the button mounted onto the beading foundation. So we're going to do this first row right along the button in this blue color. Let's go ahead and spread out some blue beads, and I love that color. Now we've got our beading needle, and we're going to take our thread and go ahead and cut off a length about 1 meter or 1 yard long. You want plenty to work with. So, and that should suffice. You don't have to be exact. Thread it onto your needle. And leave yourself a good long tail of at least 24 inches. Tie a knot at the base, and I like to just go around and around, so it's like deluxe overhand knot, whatever you want to call it. I just want to make it bulky enough so it doesn't pull through the beading foundation. So. Okay, there we go. And that's going to be covered by the backing anyways at the end. So you've got your needle on your thread, you have the knot on the end of your thread as well, and we're going to go from the back side forward, and where we want to come out is right along the edge of the button. And you'll notice that I have not accented the details of the button yet with the leafing pen. I want to do that at the very end because I'm going to be doing this for a very long time during this project. And I don't want to have that paint on there already. So go ahead and just see if you can see that a little bit better on camera. We're just going to come up right along the edge. And it's important that it is along the edge and not a 1/4 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch away, because we're going to end up trimming this and that would interfere with that and we'd end up cutting our threads. So go ahead and pick up 2 beads onto your needle. Now take your needle and put it down through the beading foundation at a distance of approximately those 2 beads. So you want the space to be matching however many beads you have on your needle. And again, I'm right along the edge. Now we're going to come back up and take some poking, because you want to come right back up where you originally came out the first time. And we're going to go back through those beads. And I apologize, it can be a little hard to see this because I am trying to use thread that blends in with the background here. So I'm going to go through those beads. And now those are secured. Now I'm going to pick up 3 more beads. So I've got 3 on my needle. And again, I'm going to try to go down through the backing at a distance of those 3 beads. Now I want to go back up, but instead of just going back through the 3, I want to go back through 4. So I'm going to add one of the ones which has already been securely anchored and go through it as well. Now some people like to do 2 beads at a time, some people like to do 3 beads at a time. It's really up to you. I know even people like to do 4 or 5. When I'm going around a curved surface like this, I like to keep it at 2 to 3 beads. Okay, so we're just going to repeat that. So 3 more beads and down. And then we're going to come back up, but we're going to come back up through 4. And we're going to repeat. Please feel free to fast forward if you already know how to do this. It is going to be the same step over and over again. And this is actually going to be the last one I'm going to show on camera, and then I'm going to get to the very end and show you how to finish this row. Okay, so up through 4, and every time I come up, I am coming up right along the edge of that button. And every time I go down is right along that edge of that button as well. So just keep repeating that process until you've worked all the way around. As you can see, I've almost finished my row and I have just 1 more bead to add. So I'm going to add it the same way I had been adding the 3. I'm just going to pick it up and go ahead and place my needle about the distance of 1 bead, go back down, go back 2 beads now, 2 or 3, doesn't really matter, and go through it. But now what I'm going to do is, instead of coming up, I'm going to actually keep going through the adjacent beads pull my needle through, and now what I want to do is I want to go around all the beads a couple times, and that's why we have this extra length of thread. So just go ahead and get your needle in there and start going around the beads. And what this is doing is it's adding extra security for your beads, and it's also making sure that they're all nice in a row. So this step here adds a little extra security for your beads, and it also makes them so they're all nice and tight and in a circle in case any were popping out a little bit. Okay, after you've gone around, go ahead and take your needle, so it should be exiting the front, and go ahead and place it right along the edge of the button and pull it through to the back. And now we're going to tie a knot, so we're just going to go ahead, place our needle under one of the thread bridges that was used earlier when we embroidered those beads on. Pull your thread down, catch it, and knot it. And I'm going to go over to the next thread bridge and do the same. And I'm going to catch under it again and make another knot. And one more time for good measure. And I'm going to snip off my excess, like so. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim our beadwork. So what we want to do is we want to line up the edge of our scissors against the edge of the beads, and we don't want to be at an angle. We want to be pretty straight on, and we're going to be cutting through the beading foundation. And just go slowly. So we've got that trimmed. It's always good to look on the other side. Make sure you didn't accidentally cut any of your threads, and that's why we kept them really tight towards the button, and we're good. It's a nice circle shape because this is really going to be what dictates the shape of our outer row. If we had a big jag in it, that's what would happen to our outer row. So I'm going to just make sure we're smooth, which we are. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue this onto the Ultra Suede, and I have this pretty blue color right here. I'm going to take the Crafter's Pick glue. Now I'm not using E6000 because sometimes E6000 can oversaturate the fabric and actually seep through. So I like Crafter's Pick for this, and this is a fabric glue, so it's really nice and flexible. And I'm just going to put it on there. And in this case, I don't want to go all the way to the edge, but I do like to cover my threads. Again, just a little added security. There we go. Flip it over. Go ahead and place it down onto your Ultra Suede and just press it into place. Now we do need to let that dry. Again, I would recommend at least 20 minutes on this one, just so that it is dry when we work with it. And in the meantime, we can go ahead and make a wrapped wire loop on top of our police box bead. And you can see how that's going to be incorporated into the earring here. So I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video, you need a tool to make a wrapped wire loop. You can either use a round nose plier, or I'm going to be using wire looping pliers. These are specialty pliers for making wrapped wire loops or simple wire loops. but they have a round nose and a concave nose, and they're really handy if you make a lot of jewelry. If you don't have them, a round nose plier would work fine. Go ahead and place your head pin into the bead, and then when it comes out, we're going to go ahead, grab it with our wire looping pliers, and pinch. And what that did is it made half the loop for us. And take it, rotate, and continue wrapping it around. And we're just going to actually use our fingers to wrap that wire around the top to make the wrapped wire loop. And then I'm going to take my pliers and just snip off the tail. And then I'm going to come back with my chain nose pliers and press that tail into place. So we are good. And then when we come back, I'll show you how to trim the ultra suede and do the basic beaded edge around the outside, and then how to make the loops, attach the earring hook, and secure the bead. Our next step is to create a basic beaded edge around the outside. And you can see that here. Now I chose to use the blue thread for this because I really liked the appearance of the stitches. You could switch to a white thread though if you wanted it to just disappear. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and trim out our beadwork again. So just do a rough cut to start. You're done with the ultra suede. And now we're just going to go ahead and cut along the edge here. So we're really tracing along the black beading foundation. There we go. Go ahead and thread your needle again. About the same length of thread as before. 36 inches or so should suffice. Thread on our needle. Again, leave yourself a tail of a good 24 inches. Now to do the basic beaded edge, we're going to need our beads, 11 O's. And they're white. I apologize that they're white on the white cloth, but I'll pick them up on the needle so you can see them a little better. And in this case, we're not going to tie a knot on our tail. And you'll see why at the very end here. So to start, go ahead, take your needle, going from the back to the front. And you're going through the foundation as well as the ultra suede. And you're coming up right under your beads along the edge. Leave a tail of about 6 inches because at the end we're going to rethread a needle onto this tail. Pick up 2 white beads. On your needle. Now we're going to go back down about the length of 2 beads. Go back down through the foundation as well as the ultra suede and come out on the other side. And pull. And those are the first 2 beads of our edge. Now we're going to take our needle and go up through the second bead. You'll notice in this step, I'm not going through any of the layers of foundation and ultra suede. Now we're going to pick up 1 bead and we're going to go down through the foundation and the ultra suede, going from the front to the back. And again, you want it to be about the length of the 1 bead. So go ahead and see where that is on your beadwork. And then we go up through the bead again. And the closer you have your stitches to the edge, the less noticeable they'll be with the finished beadwork. Again, 1 bead. And we're going from the front to the back. And then up through the bead again. And repeat. I'll do 1 more and then I'm going to go ahead and do these off camera and I'll come back and show you how to finish it up. So it's got that bead on there. Make sure you get enough of the backing. up again. And there we go. And you can see what it has started to look like here. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and I'll come back on camera when I just need to add 1 or 2 more beads and show you how to do that, and then how to take care of this tail and tie off both of your ends. I just need to add my last bead. You can see there's a little gap right here, and this is actually a tough call if I need to add 1 or 2 beads. So I'm going to take 1 bead and put it in here, kind of see if I think I can get 2 in there, or if 1 is going to have to do it. And I really think it's just going to be 1 in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and put my needle down the center between those 2 beads to fill that gap, and then come back up. So this is the same technique we've been using all along, and pull. And now I'm going to go back down through that very first bead that we strung on and that we stitched as our outer row. There we go, and pull it down. And now I'm going to go up through an adjacent bead and have my thread exit there. So that's nice and tight now. At this point, I'm going to take my needle off of my thread, re-thread it onto the original tail, and I want to get rid of this tail at this point and tie it off. So now I'm going to go up through an adjacent bead, pull that, go back through an adjacent bead and down into your ultra suede backing. Now you can either go up into your beadwork, stick your needle through and tie a hidden knot in there, or if you could be really discreet, you can just tie a knot right here, because this is the backing. It's up to you. So I'm just going to go under one of my thread bridges, tie a knot, tie 1 more, okay, and at this point I am going to go up through that bead again, pull that knot, down through the next bead, and come up on the front, just so that thread is hidden, and now I'm going to snip it off. So no one's going to see that thread. It's gone. Now I'm ready to add my little loops and the police box charm that I made, as well as the loop for the earring hook. So to do that, we're going to be using the same length of thread that we did our beaded edge with. I'm just going to go ahead and put the needle back on. And cut that tip. A cleaner edge to thread through the needle. If you look at the original earring here, you'll notice the orientation of the gears. Now you can go ahead and mimic that so they're facing the same way. You can go ahead and mirror it so they're facing each other, or you can just let it be random. I'm going to let it be random. If you wanted to have it a certain orientation, you would just stitch up and down through your beads till you exit the place where you want. But since I'm letting it be random, it doesn't really matter. So to make the little loop to attach the police box, we're going to need 6 of the little blue beads and 10 of the little white beads. I'm going to thread on 3 blue beads, 5 of the white ones, okay, so that's what we've got. Go ahead, put on the wrapped wire loop of your little police box, and then we need 5 more white and 3 more blue. That is what this is going to look like. And we're going to go ahead, count our outer beads. So we exited this one. I want to count to 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that 9th one, I want to go through it and come out the back side and pull. And there is our little loop. and it matches the other earring. Now I need to work my way up to the top to make the top loop for the earring hook. And to do that, you can do one of two things. You can go up through your beadwork, and I do recommend going up through a few beads. Just retracing that path. Then what you can do is you can either keep doing that all the way to the top, or you can go push your needle through to the top side, pull it, and you can go along this edge and go through your center beads. It's a little bit quicker if you do it this way. Now we want these to be even, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to count the edge here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 beads away from this bottom loop, not counting the bead that the bottom loop is coming out of. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So it's going to be this guy right here. I'm going to go ahead, keep running my needle along those interior beads till I exit near that 16th bead, and then push my needle through to the back side, and then come up and out of that 16th bead. Even though we counted, we do want to visually look at this and make sure that's right, that that looks correct to us. And actually, to me, that looks like it might be a little too far over. So before I pull my needle all the way through, I'm going to back it back out and just go one fewer. And that looks better to me. You'll see what we did here. We did one blue bead, 4 of the white beads, and another blue bead, and there were 4 beads between them. So we exited 1, then we counted 2, 3, and we went into the 4th. So let's go ahead and do that same pattern. So a blue bead, 4 white beads, another blue bead, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, down the 4th. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, down the 4th, and out the back side. And as you're doing this, your needle might come off. You just go ahead and you rethread it if that's the case. So we are almost done. So I'm going to go up now through some of the adjacent beads. And I do like to catch the foundation and the backing as I go. Okay, and I'm going to go down one more. Make sure everything is nice and tight. Now I'm ready to finally tie off this thread. So I'm going to find a thread bridge. And tie a couple knots. Then I'm going to go up through that bead. And get out of their little police box. Okay, up through that bead so that knot pretty much disappears. Go back through another one, and again, I want to come out the front. And if you trim this close enough, you're not going to see that thread at all. All right, we are down to the final 2 steps. We need to add our earring hook, and we need to go ahead and do the detailing with the silver leafing pen. So to put on the earring hook, you could have just threaded it on there like you did with the wrapped wire loop as you were doing this, or you can just go back, open up the base the way you'd open up an earring hook, slip it on, and close it back up. We're at the final step, and it's a pretty important one. We're going to add the detailing here on the gears of the button, and we're going to do that using a silver leafing pen. And you're going to want to get the feel for the pen first before you do this, because you have spent a lot of time on your embroidery, and this is a step that requires a delicate hand. So this is the leafing pen and how it works. You depress the tip to get the ink to come out. So just do that a few times, get the ink flowing. And if you're buying this new, the tip is actually going to be a neutral color, and you're going to depress it probably 10-15 times to get the ink to seep down onto it. But you're going to want to use a light hand, so just kind of get used to it. And we're just going to trace really whatever we feel like tracing on the top here. And I'm going to pop out this nice gear right here, and I'm going very slowly, and I'm just touching it ever so lightly. And I do want to pop out that center of it, a little arrow. And over here, there's a nice gear to pop out. And really feel free to do as much or as little of this as you want. And you can try to use the tip as well, which I'm going to try to use to get into this back feathered part of the arrow. And then that looks nice. You don't have to make the 2 match. It's fun to have a little variety if you so choose. Once you start using these leafing pens, they're actually pretty addictive. It's a nice way of really altering the look of something very quickly and easily. And you'll see that my ink bled down there a little bit, so I'm going to go for it. I'm just going to finish coloring in that side. Why not? And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to not touch what I've already done. All right, I actually like that. I think that works. You could do more, you could do less, but I think that is nice. And I'm going to let this dry for several hours, and then they will be ready to be worn. So let me show you them on my hand. Again, these are called the Adrift in Time earrings, and you can find all the supplies for them at Beadaholique.com.